This is another fine mess you've made here, I see.
We have made a heck of a mess.
Yeah.
A curse, a prophecy, and a fortune in gold. The Oak Island legend has it all. For years, the team has chased scattered clues from coconut fibers to a lead cross. Now, they've hit the jackpot. Scientific data has pinpointed the exact location of a massive gold deposit, and historical records have identified who put it there. The X on the map. The air on Oak Island has always been thick with anticipation, but this time, it felt different. The team, led by brothers Rick and Marty Lagina, was riding a wave of excitement. They had found gold, real, tangible gold, in water samples drawn from deep beneath the money pit area. This wasn't just another theory, it was hard science, pointing them in a clear direction. For the first time in the island's 228-year history, the hunt wasn't a guessing game. Believe it or not, the entire search on Oak Island came down to water. Dr. Ian Spooner, an earth scientist, and Dr. Fred Michel, a water expert, had become the team's guiding stars. After a lot of testing, they narrowed the search from the whole island to a small area they nicknamed the Blob.
Oh, wow, that's a lot of pottery.
Look, well, it looks like we've hit the dump, guys.
As it turns out, this was a zone where precious metals were clustered together, hinting that something big was buried there. Then they looked at the data even more closely. New tests pointed to an even smaller target, a 20 by 20 foot zone between 80 and 120 feet deep. The team called this spot the Baby Blob. At long last, the team stood on the exact area marked with a giant orange X. This was it. All the research, money, sweat, and hope were now focused on this one spot. The data suggested a tunnel might run right through this location, about 95 feet below the surface. Truth be told, everything was leading them here. The team brought in the massive drilling rig. The plan was to drill a new hole called DN-11.5, right into the heart of the Baby Blob. They hoped to hit not just valuables, but also that mysterious tunnel. In fact, they believed the tunnel ran directly below the nearby garden shaft, an old searcher shaft where water tests had also detected gold. The excitement was buzzing in the air. After months of careful water sampling, they were finally going to drill. Everyone could feel it in their bones. This was the spot. But as the giant drill bit began to turn, no one could have guessed that they were about to break through into something far more important than just an empty space. As the drilling began, historian Charles Barkhouse and geologist Terry Matheson watched, holding their breath. The drill went past 80 feet, entering the treasure zone. Suddenly, a loud grinding screech filled the air. The drill operator had to pull up because they had broken through something. Needless to say, everyone's heart skipped a beat.
And they're going to vacuum it up, literally, and we're going to look in there, and we're going to hope we find the one thing.
Today's the day we find Rick's one thing.
Yeah.
The operator measured the pipe and rushed over to the tent, explaining they had broken through something at 90 feet. They had found an open space, a void about 1.5 feet tall, right where the scientists predicted a tunnel would be. After a frantic phone call, Rick Lagina raced to the site. The news was almost too good to be true. The new borehole seemed to line up perfectly with two other nearby holes. This suggested they had hit a long, man-made tunnel about 94 feet underground. And sure enough, this tunnel was sitting right inside the Baby Blob, the area with the highest concentration of gold. The team knew they needed to confirm if it was truly a tunnel, so they decided to get a core sample, which is a physical piece of what's deep in the ground. The drill team went back to work, lowering the drill to grab a sample from below the void. Rick watched, his mind racing. A tunnel this close to the garden shaft in an area flooded with signs of gold would be a huge breakthrough. Finally, the drillers returned, carrying a long tube of earth and rock. As the team sliced it open, lo and behold, they found solid chunks of wood embedded in the core. This wasn't just loose debris, it was structural wood found 98.5 feet deep just below the open space. The team wondered if it could be from a treasure chest or maybe from the tunnel itself. A sample was immediately bagged and rushed to the Oak Island Interpretive Center. There, an expert in ancient metals named Emma Culligan would analyze it with a special X-ray machine. 24 hours later, the team gathered to hear the results. Emma explained that the wood contained all the usual elements found on the island, like iron and calcium. However, she paused before announcing that there were some unexpected large amounts of gold. The room erupted with excitement. The gold wasn't just there, it was what she called a very big outlier, meaning there was a huge spike in the data. They had done it. They had physical proof, a man-made tunnel that contained gold. Rick was amazed. He realized they now had proof in both the wood and the water. For the first time, it felt like they were on the right path. The discovery of the golden tunnel was a game changer. But on top of all that, the secrets they would uncover in the nearby garden shaft would add a truly shocking layer to the mystery. Secrets of the shaft.
I don't know if that's rock or wood, but it's immovable right there. Coming in.
While the golden tunnel discovery sent shockwaves through the team, another operation was happening at the garden shaft that would prove to be just as important. The shaft, an old collapsed tunnel, was being carefully rebuilt. The goal was to reach a depth of 80 feet, and as the workers dug, they were making incredible finds. Marty and the operations manager, Scott Barlow, went 60 feet down into the newly secured shaft. There, leaning against the wall, was an ancient handcrafted ladder. This was undeniable proof of the original builders. You could even see where the ladder had been whittled by hand. This wasn't just a ladder, it was a treasure in itself, a direct link to the people who were on the island centuries ago. It was possible the ladder had been left behind by the very people who buried the treasure. The garden shaft was a hotbed of clues. Water tests here had shown high levels of gold. Now, Rick had a brilliant idea. He reasoned that wood would act like a sponge. If water full of gold was seeping into the shaft, the original wooden walls should have soaked it up. He asked the building crew to save every wood sample from the original structure. His hunch paid off big time. Emma Culligan tested a piece of the original wooden wall taken from a depth of 55 feet. Her announcement left the team speechless. She had detected gold. It was a stunning confirmation. The gold wasn't just in the water or a single tunnel, it was embedded in the very structure of the garden shaft. When asked about the accuracy, she confirmed it was 100% certain, but it got even better. The geologist, Terry Matheson, asked if the gold had stuck to the wood. Emma replied that it had at a rate of 0.11%. While that sounds small, she explained it was a huge amount. A few days later, she tested another wood sample, this one from 58 feet, just 3 feet deeper. The result was that the gold content had increased. The deeper they went, the stronger the gold signal became. For all intents and purposes, it was an unmistakable trail leading them downwards closer to the source. The mounting evidence of gold pointed to a massive treasure. Meanwhile, across the island, a different kind of discovery was about to connect Oak Island to one of history's most powerful and mysterious organizations. The hunt wasn't just in the Money Pit area. The team also began investigating features found decades earlier by the legendary island landowner Fred Nolan. His son Tom shared pages from his father's unpublished book revealing 2 sites that would change the investigation forever. The first was a strange stone wall on Lot 26. A local forestry technician, Peter Romke, who was also an amateur stonemason, noticed something incredible about how it was built. The wall was constructed to lean in on itself with a foundation of small rubble and gravel. He explained that this was the same way people built castles and large structures in England and Scotland. It was, in fact, an ancient and very clever building technique. Just feet away from the wall was a well, constructed in the same peculiar style. This was significant because just a week earlier, an expert from the New England Antiquities Association had examined the well and said it looked identical to one at New Ross, a site just 20 miles away.
Perfect spot for it, though. You know, if it is a ring pole to get you up the hill, right? You know, it would be a very logical place for it with a block and tackle.
Right.
Why was that so shocking? Because researchers believe the New Ross site was a fortress built by the Knights Templar. The second site Tom Nolan pointed them to was a hidden well on Lot 11 near the swamp. Fred Nolan had found it in the 1970s, filled with an enormous amount of broken pottery, and then buried it again. As the team re-excavated the well, metal detection expert Gary Drayton immediately found a rosehead spike, a type of hand-forged nail made before 1795. Moments later, he found a hand-forged hook, nearly identical to a 17th century cargo hook found years earlier. As more of the well was exposed, Rick realized its construction, using smaller stones and lacking large, round granite boulders, was identical to the well on Lot 26. Two wells on opposite ends of the island built in the same ancient, mysterious style. "I don't believe in coincidence," Rick stated. To him, this pointed to a coordinated body of work by a single, mysterious organization. These stone structures were clearly ancient and European. The gold was real, the evidence was piling up, suggesting a massive, well-organized operation took place on Oak Island long before the money pit was discovered. But it was another of Fred Nolan's discoveries, a bizarre feature he called the quadrilateral that would provide a direct link to a lost Templar treasure. The quadrilateral clue. Guided by Fred Nolan's decades-old notes, the team moved their excavation to Lot 13, northeast of the swamp. Here in the 1990s, Fred had discovered what he called the quadrilateral, a massive man-made boulder field over 30 feet long and 10 feet deep, arranged in 3 distinct layers. No farmer would ever build such a thing. It had to have a purpose. As Billy Gerhardt's excavator began to peel back the earth, the team found something extraordinary: burnt pieces of wood cut into thin branches. Gary Drayton's eyes lit up. This was just like the charred wood they'd found years ago forming the base layer of the 500-year-old stone road in the swamp. That road had been identified as Portuguese in design and was a near-perfect match for a road found at a Knights Templar stronghold in Alqueidão da Serra, Portugal. The connection was electrifying. Could the quadrilateral and the stone road be connected? Just as that thought settled in, they hit something else: blue clay. The very same unusual sticky clay that was part of the original money pit legend, believed to have been used as a sealant to keep water out of the treasure tunnel. Dr. Ian Spooner confirmed their suspicions. The clay, he said, was definitely not natural. It was disturbed, out of place, and had been moved here for a purpose. "I'm viewing the area as a safe," Rick theorized. The clay was the waterproofing and the massive boulders were the key to the safe. Someone went to incredible lengths to build a massive underground structure here and seal it from the elements. The evidence was now interlocking. The stone road in the swamp, the hidden wells, the stone wall, and now the quadrilateral were all pointing to the same builders. They were ancient, they were sophisticated, and all signs were pointing directly to Portugal. The team was on the verge of the biggest breakthrough in the island's history. A call to a researcher in Europe would finally provide the last piece of the puzzle. The team gathered in the war room for a video conference call that would tie everything together. Rick had commissioned researchers across Europe to scour archives for links to Oak Island, and Francisco Nogueira, a researcher in the Azores, had found something big. Francisco, an expert on Portuguese maritime history, explained that the building technique used for the stone wall on Lot 26, 2 larger walls with rubble fill in the middle, was a distinct style used by the Portuguese in the 15th and 16th centuries. The room buzzed with excitement. This was a direct link. Then Francisco dropped the bombshell. He spoke of the Portuguese succession crisis of 1580. When King Henrique died without an heir, his nephew Antonio, prior of Crato, was considered the rightful successor. Antonio was a member of the Order of Christ, the Portuguese successor to the Knights Templar. When the King of Spain seized the throne, a massive fortune connected to the Order of Christ, gold, silver, and priceless relics went missing. It has never been accounted for. Francisco believed that Antonio and the Order of Christ, facing persecution from Spain and the ongoing Inquisition, moved their treasure to the New World for safekeeping. And where did they hide it? All signs pointed to Oak Island. The timeline fit perfectly. To confirm this, the team had sent a charcoal sample found at the base of the Portuguese-style wall for carbon dating. The results came back. The wall was built sometime between 1464 and 1638. This date range falls squarely in the middle of the Portuguese Age of Exploration, the rise of the Order of Christ, the start of the Inquisition in Portugal, 1536, and the disappearance of the treasure, 1580. With proof of a golden tunnel and Templar connections, the Oak Island mystery is deeper than ever. But is this the world's greatest treasure hunt or an elaborate deception? Let us know. Like and subscribe for more.